عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. Math grade 6. Today we want to learn how to subtract with renaming. How to subtract with renaming. See with me now this video.
Good evening, boys and girls. Welcome to lesson 6.7, Subtraction with Renaming. Our essential question for tonight is how can you use renaming to find the difference of two mixed numbers? So turn in your Go Math book to lesson 6.7 and let's begin. All right, let's start with question number 2. For question number 2, it says 4 1/2 minus 3 5/6. Let's start out by estimating first. 4 1/2 automatically can just stay as 4 1/2 for my estimate, but I'm going to go ahead and round 3 5/6 up to 4 wholes, because 5/6 is almost a whole anyways, so 3 wholes plus 1 whole is 4 wholes. So 4 1/2 minus 4 wholes would estimate to be about 1/2 left. So our difference needs to be close to 1/2. Let's go ahead and try this out. I always prefer to set it up by making it vertical. So I'm going to go ahead and put 4 1/2 minus 3 5/6. Now we're going to do what we learned on yesterday's lesson by finding equivalent fractions with the same denominators. Right now I know my denominators are not the same, but we can make them the same. If I have a denominator of 2 and 6, I know my common denominator can be 6. Because 2 and 6 both can share a same common denominator. 3 5/6 now will stay the same, but 4 1/2 equals 4 3 6. So now let's focus on this part of the question, because we've already renamed it now. Now we have 4 3 6 minus 3 5/6. Away 5/6 from 3 6. I'm going to have to regroup. So I'm going to take away a whole from my 4 wholes and make that 3 wholes. Because I took away a whole, I need to make a whole. And to make a whole, I have to add 6 6. So I have 3 wholes and 9 6. Now I can subtract. 3 wholes and 9 6 minus 3 wholes and 5 6 will equal 4 6 as my difference. Also can be simplified to 2/3, which is pretty close to a half. So yes, our answer is reasonable. Okay, let's go ahead and take a look at question number 4. If we wanted to estimate 2 1/6 minus 1 2/7, I'm going to say 2 1/6 is really close to 2 wholes, because 1/6 is hardly anything at all. So let's go ahead and say 2 minus, now for 1 2/7, here's a picture of 2/7. You can see that 2/7 can either be close to about a half or just say 0. I'm going to go ahead and just make this a lot easier and call this 2/7 as 0. So we're really just going to subtract 1 whole. So I'll say 2 minus 1 is about 1. Now let's see if our difference is close to 1 whole. So let's go ahead and rewrite it so it's vertical. 2 1/6 minus 1 2/7. Now if we were to list our multiples of 6 and 7, the first one that would come up that would be the same would be 42. Let's all put 42 down as our denominator that will be common. All right, now let's multiply. 7 times what is 42? 7 times 6 is 42. So 2 times 6 is 12. Let's put a 12 as our numerator. And now let's look at this top one. 6 times what is 42? I know 6 times 7 is 42, so 1 times 7 is 7. And now we have a problem, because I know that I cannot subtract 12 42s from 7 42s. So I'm going to have to regroup and make it work. So let's go ahead and borrow from my 2 wholes and make that just 1 whole. And now I can add 42 over 42, which equals a whole. So now 42 plus 7 is 49. So really this has a value of 49 over 42, which is actually 1 whole and 7 42s. Now I can subtract 49 minus 12. 9 minus 2 is 7, and 4 minus 1 is 3. So I have 37 over 42. Now, my whole numbers, I don't subtract anything because 1 take away 1 is 0. Therefore, our answer is almost a whole, like our estimate, because if a whole is cut into 42 parts and 37 is shaded in, that's almost 42. So it's close to a whole. So our estimate is great. And there's our difference. All right, let's look at number 6. First, let's estimate. I'm going to say 9 1/4. What do you think? I would think it's close to 9 wholes because 1/4 is hardly shaded in. All right, minus 3 2/3. If I have 2/3, I know it's cut into 3 parts and 2 are shaded in. That's almost a whole. So let's go ahead and call this 4 wholes. So 9 minus 4, our difference should be about 5 wholes. All right, let's go ahead and set it up vertically. 9 1/4 minus 3 2/3. Now let's go ahead and find equivalent fractions. I know 4 and 3, their first common denominator that they will share is 12, because 3, 6, 9, 12, and 4, 8, 12. So they both share 12. Now we can find equivalent fractions. 3 times what is 12? I know 3 times 4 is 12. So 2 times 4 is going to be 8. And now let's look at our top fraction. 4 times 3 is 12, so 1 times 3 is 3. All right, let's subtract. 3 twelfths minus 8 twelfths. I can't do it because 8 twelfths is greater than 3 twelfths. So let's go ahead and regroup. I'm going to take away a whole from my 9, and we're going to call that 8 wholes. And now let's just add a whole to my 3 twelfths. So 3 twelfths plus 12 twelfths would be 15 twelfths. So let's go ahead and put 15 twelfths minus 8 twelfths. Now I can subtract. 15 twelfths minus 8 twelfths is 7 twelfths. And now let's do our whole numbers. 8 wholes, remember we regrouped, minus 3 wholes would be 5 wholes. So the difference should be 5 wholes and 7 twelfths. All right, for number 8, if we wanted to estimate first, I would say this is about 8 wholes minus, all right, 3 5/9. I know 9 is an odd number, so you really can't find a half of it, but a half of 9 would be 4 1/2. So 5 is really close to that. So I'm going to say 8 minus 3 1/2. Now, remember, when you subtract a fraction from nothing, you have to create something for it to subtract from. So I'm going to go ahead and take this and make it 7. And we're going to make 2 halves. And now we can subtract. 2 halves minus 1 half is 1 half. And 7 minus 3 is 4. So our difference should be about 4 1/2. That should be our difference. All right. Now let's go ahead and let's subtract. Here we go. I'm going to go ahead and set it up vertically. 8 1/5 minus 3 5/9. All right. Now, if you would like to pause the video and do it ahead of me, so that way you can see if your answer will match mine, you can pause the video now. But if you still want the guidance, just continue listening. All right. So for this one, you should have looked at your 1/5 and 5/9 and notice that it does not have a common denominator. So let's go ahead and make it common. All right, I'm going to list my multiples of 9. 9, 18, 27, 36, 45. Now I'm going to stop right there because I know that my multiples of 5 right here always have to end in either a 5 or a 0. So 45 would be the first one that they will share that's common. So we're going to put 45 as my denominator that's common. Now let's find our equivalent fractions. 9 times 5 is 45, so 5 times 5 is 25. Let's put 25 as my numerator for down here. And let's do the top one now. 5 times 9 is 45, so 1 times 9 is 9. All right. can I do 9/45 minus 25/45? I can't do that. So I'm going to go ahead and regroup. Let's regroup from our whole and make that 7 wholes. And now we can add a whole. 45 over 45. All right, 45 plus 9 is going to be 54. So we're going to have 54 over 45. Now we can subtract. 54 minus 25. Let me do it over here. It's a little hard to do it mentally, so I'm going to go ahead and show you why. Let's regroup. Okay, 14 minus 5 is 9, and 4 minus 2 is 2. All right, so we have 29 over 45. Now that's a regular fraction. And now let's subtract our whole numbers. 4 minus 3 is 4 wholes. And there's our fraction answer. And if you look at our estimate, it's pretty close. 4 1/2, 4 and 29/45. Half of 45 is in the 20s, so we did great. So that's a great estimate. So I believe we are correct. So let's go ahead and do this next question. Carlene bought 8 1/16 yards of ribbon to decorate a shirt. She only used 5 1/2 yards. How much ribbon does she have left over? Whenever you see left over, that's a clue to subtract. And when you see she only used, that's another clue to subtract. Let's go ahead and subtract. Now, as you can see, my denominators are different. So what do we have to do? Make them common. I'm making 16 to be my like denominator because my multiples of 2 are 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, and 16. And so I can see that 16 is also one of the multiples of 2. Okay, let's go ahead and make them equivalent. So 8 1/16 is still 8 1/16, and 5 1/2 is equivalent to 5 8/16. Okay, remember our step. When you subtract 8/16 from 1/16, you can't do it unless you regroup. Now I know that I can regroup by borrowing from my whole number, the 8. We'll call that a 7. And now I'm going to make a whole because I borrowed a whole. So I'm going to add right here 16/16 because that equals 1 whole. So now I have a total of 17/16. Now I can subtract. 17/16 minus 8/16 will be 9/16, and 7 wholes minus 5 wholes is 2 wholes. And I know 9/16 is already in simplest form because the greatest common factor that 9 and 16 share is just 1. Okay, boys and girls, your job is to answer questions 1 and 2, which is like today's lesson. Make sure you show your work in your book so that way you can show that you did it yourself. Or if you need to do it on notebook paper, just bring that inside your book tomorrow to show the teachers as we check your homework. We're also going to have you do questions 3.
Okay, today we want to learn subtract with renaming. Subtract with renaming. As you see here we have mixed number, and here we have mixed number, and here we have minus. See here, the whole number here 6, the whole number here 4. The fraction here, as you see, the denominator here is 3, the denominator here is 3. So we have like fractions. The problem here, the numerator here will be 4, and the numerator here will be 5. Now 4 minus 5, impossible. I cannot do this operation. What I do today, we want to learn what I do to solve this problem. And here we have the same problem, but here the different denominators. Here we have alike fractions. And here, listen, here we have 3, and here we have 5. So listen to this video now.
Turn to your next blank page in your journal. Put today's date at the top. Put a complete title, which is lesson 3-4, subtracting mixed numbers with renaming. You might think of renaming as borrowing. We're going to follow our same steps as adding and subtracting mixed numbers, but we're going to have to borrow today. So let's look at question number 1. Number 1 says 5 minus 2 2/3. Now notice, there's not a fraction here for me to subtract from. The most common mistake that students make is they think, oh, there's nothing there, so I can bring 2/3 down. That is not correct. You have to have a placeholder here to see if I can subtract. Since my denominator is already 3, and I know I have to have a common denominator, I'm going to put a placeholder of 0/3 because 5 wholes is equivalent to 5 0/3. Now let's see if we can subtract. 0/3 minus 2/3. We cannot do that, so we have to borrow. So I'm going to borrow from the 5. The 5 becomes a 4. And notice I just borrowed 1 whole. So add your 1 whole in front of your 0/3. So now I have 1 0/3. Notice that did not help me any. So I have to find a way to use 1 0/3. To help me use that 1 0/3, I'm going to go around the world and change it into an improper fraction. So 3 times 1 is 3. 3 plus 0 is 3. So 1 0/3 is the same as 3/3. I'm going to slide my 2/3 over. And notice now I am able to subtract. 3/3 minus 2/3 is 1/3. Now I need to subtract my whole numbers. Remember to use the 4. 4 minus 2 is 2. My last step is to see if I can simplify. My numerator is 1, so I know that my fraction is in simplest form. So my answer is 2 1/3. Let's try another one together. Number 2, 7 minus 3 3/8. Notice there's not a fraction here for me to try to subtract from, so I'm going to have to add a placeholder. I already have a denominator of 8, so I want my common denominator to be 8. So I'm going to put 0/8. Now notice, I can't do 0/8 minus 3/8, so I have to borrow from the 7. When I borrow from the 7, it becomes a 6. I borrowed 1 whole. So now I have 1 0/8. It's not usable as a mixed number. So I'm going to change it into an improper fraction so that it will be useful to me. So 8 times 1 is 8. 8 plus 0 is 8. And denominator stays the same. So 1 0/8 is equal to 8/8. I'm going to slide my 3/8 over. Now I'm able to subtract. 8/8 minus 3/8 is 5/8. Now let's subtract our whole numbers. 6 minus 3 is 3. My last step is to see if I can simplify. Numerator's prime will not divide into denominator, so my answer is 3 5/8. Let's try another. Number 3, 4 3/8 minus 2 5/8. Notice that my denominators are already the same, so I don't have to find a common denominator. I have 3/8 minus 5/8. I cannot take 5/8 away from 3/8. The most common mistake people make is they put 2 8s. That is not true. If I only have 3 8s, I can't take away 5 8s because 5 8s is greater. So that means I'm going to have to borrow. I borrow from the 4. The 4 becomes a 3. And I just borrowed 1 whole. So put your 1 whole. Now, in order for 1 3/8 to be useful to me, I need to write it as an improper fraction. So I'm going to go around the world. 8 times 1 is 8. 8 plus 3 is 11. So I have 11 eighths. I'm going to slide my 5 eighths over. Now I'm finally able to subtract. 11 eighths minus 5 eighths is 6 eighths. Now let's subtract our whole numbers. 3 minus 2 is 1. Now I need to look at my fraction to see if it's in simplest form. I notice they're both even, so I can simplify by 2. When you simplify, don't forget to include your whole number. So 1 6/8 simplifies to 1 3/4. I know that 1 3/4 is in simplest form because my numerator and my denominator are 1 away. Number 4. 5 7/12 minus 3 11/12. Notice I already have a common denominator of 12, so now let's see if we can subtract. Can we do 7/12 minus 11/12? No, we cannot, so that means we have to borrow. We borrow from the 5. The 5 becomes a 4. And remember, I borrowed 1 whole. So now I'm going to have to go around the world to make 1 7/12 into an improper fraction so it will be useful to me. So 12 times 1 is 12. 12 plus 7 is 19. So 1 7/12 is equal to 19/12. I'm going to slide my 11/12 over. Now I'm able to subtract. 9/12 minus 11/12 is 8/12. Now subtract our whole numbers. 4 minus 3 is 1. Next, I check to see if I can simplify. Well, I know that 4 divides into both 8 and 12. So I'm going to simplify by 4s. Don't forget your whole number. So 1 8/12 simplifies to 1 2/3. I know that 1 2/3 is in simplest form because my numerator and denominator are 1 away. Let me caution you quickly. Whenever you borrow, don't forget to mark out the whole number and write your new whole number. Please don't forget that step. Let's look at number 5. 25 says 23 1/6 minus 11 1/3. Notice this time my denominators are not the same, so that means I'm going to have to find a common denominator. So I'm going to count by 6s and count by 3s. I'm going to start with 3s. 3, 6. I can stop because they have a multiple in common. So my common denominator is 6. So now I need to find my equivalent fractions. 6 times 1 is 6. So 1 times 1 is 1. 3 times 2 is 6. So 1 times 2 is 2. Now let's see if we can subtract. Can we do 1/6 minus 2/6? No, we cannot. So we're going to have to borrow. So I borrow from the 23. It becomes a 22. I borrowed 1 whole. So I'm going to put that 1 whole in front of my 1/6. Now, 1 1/6 still does not help me as a mixed number. So I'm going to change it into an improper fraction. So 6 times 1 is 6. 6 plus 1 is 7. So 1 and 1/6 is equal to 7/6. I'm going to slide my 2/6 over. Now I can subtract. 7/6 minus 2/6 is 5/6. Don't forget your whole numbers. 22 minus 11 is 11. Next, I see if I can simplify. Well, I see that my numerator and denominator are 1 away, so I know that my answer is in simplest form. Let's look at number 6. A farmer gave 34 7/8 acres of land to the local historical society for a park. Previously, the farmer owned 177.5 acres of land. How much farmland does he have left? If I want to know how much he has left, we're going to have to subtract. So that's 177.5 minus 34 7/8. Notice that I do not have a common denominator yet, so I'm going to have to find a common denominator. Well, I know if I count by 2's, I will get to 8 because 2 times 4 is 8. So my common denominator is 8. Now we need to find our equivalent fractions. 2 times 4 is 8, so 1 times 4 is 4. 8 times 1 is 8, so 7 times 1 is 7. Now let's see if we can subtract. We can't do 4/8 minus 7/8, so we're going to have to borrow. So the 177 becomes a 176. And remember, I borrowed 1 whole. 1 and 4/8 as a mixed number doesn't help me to subtract, so I need to turn it into an improper fraction. So 8 times 1 is 8. 8 plus 4 is 12. So 1 and 4/8 is equivalent to 12/8. I'm going to slide my 7/8 over. Now I can subtract. 12/8 minus 7/8 is 5/8. Don't forget your whole numbers. 7 minus 4 is 2. 7 minus 3 is 4. 1 minus nothing is 1. Next, I check to see if I can simplify. Well, I know that my numerator is prime and won't divide into denominator, so my answer is in simplest form. But it is a word problem, so don't forget to label. So the farmer has 142 5/8 acres left over. Let's try one more together. Number 7. Eve's family used 12 1/3 gallons of gasoline driving to an amusement park. They used 10 5/9 gallons driving home. How much more gasoline did they use driving to the park than driving home? My key words, how much more, tells me I'm going to have to subtract. I'm going to put the largest fraction on top. 12 1/3 is the largest. So 12 1/3 minus 10 5/9. The first thing that I notice is that I do not have a common denominator, so I know I'm going to have to find a common denominator. Well, I know if I count by 3's, I will get to 9 because 3 times 3 is 9, so that tells me my common denominator is 9. Now let's write our equivalent fractions. 3 times 3 is 9, so 1 times 3 is 3. 9 times 1 is 9, so 5 times 1 is 5. Now let's see if we can subtract. Can we do 3/9 minus 5/9? No, we cannot, so we're going to have to borrow. I borrow from the whole number 12. It becomes 11. I borrowed 1 whole. 1 and 3/9 as a mixed number does not help me, so I need to change into an improper fraction. So 9 times 1 is 9. 9 plus 3 is 12. So 12 ninths is equal to 1 3/9. And now I will be able to subtract. So I'm going to slide my 5 ninths over. Now I can subtract. 12 ninths minus 5 ninths is 7 ninths. Don't forget your whole numbers. 11 minus 10 is 1. Next, check to see if I can simplify. Well, I know that 7 ninths is in simplest form because the numerator is prime and won't divide into the denominator. Now it is a word problem, so I have to label. So it's 1 7/9 gallons of gasoline.
Here we have example 1. The question here now, estimate, then subtract, write the difference in simplest form. As you see here, we have 5 and 1 over 7 minus 4 and 3 over 5. The question said estimate. So must to do the first step, estimate the two mixed numbers here. As you see here at the first mixed number, we have here the fraction 1 over 7. Comparing between the numerator and denominator, 1 is very, very small compared with 7. So the rounding here will be 0. So I have here now 5. So write here 5. Minus, here we have 3 over 5. 3 is about of the half of 5. So the rounding here will be 1 over 2. 1 over 2. So here will be 4 and 1 over 2. Now this is whole number and this is mixed number. I cannot subtract directly because here we don't have fraction. What I do, change from whole number to the mixed number. Change from whole number to the mixed number. How? Borrow 1 from 5. As you see, 1, I can write 1, 2 over 2. Because 2 over 2 means 2 divided by 2 will be 1. So I can write 5, 4, and 2 over 2. Minus, and here 4, 1 over 2. Now, 2 minus 1 will be 1. And here the same denominator. Here the same denominator will be 2. And 4 minus 4 will be 0. So the answer will be half. Here without estimate. Here we want to solve without estimate. Subtract, then write the difference in the simplest form. As you see, we have like fractions here. So I can do subtraction directly. But we have here a problem. The problem here we have 1, here we have 5. 1 minus 5, impossible. I cannot do this operation. So what I do, regrouping or borrow from 12. Borrow from 12, 1. Take 1 from 12, 12 will be 11. And I can write the 1, 6 over 6. I can write the 1, 6 over 6. And here we have 1 over 6. Minus 8 and 5 over 6. Now here we have 11. 6 plus 1 will be 7 over 6. Minus 8 and 5 over 6. Now the operation is possible now. As you see, 7 minus 5 will be 2. And the same denominator here will be 6. And 11 minus 8 will be 3. And here we can do simplest form. Find GCF for 2 and 6 will be 2. 2 divided by 2 will be 1. And 6 divided by 2 will be 3. So the last answer now, we have 3 and 1 over 3. 3 and 1 over 3. Here the same problem. 5 minus 7. Impossible. What I do now, borrow 1 from 13. Take 1 from 13. 13 will be 12. And change the 1 as here the denominator. Change the 1 to the 12 over 12. And here we have 5 over 12. Minus, here we have 8 and 7 over 12. Now here we have 12, and here inside the parentheses, we have 12 plus 5 will be 17 over 12. 17 over 12. minus 8 and 7 over 12. Now, the operation possible now, 17 minus 7 will be 10 over the same denominator, over the same denominator. Now 12 minus 8 will be 4. Now as you see here, we can do simplest form. The GCF here between 10 and 12 will be 2. So divide by 2 up, divide by 2 down. 10 divided by 2 will be 5, and the 12 divided by 2 will be 6. So the last answer will be here 4 and 5 over 6. The different question here, we have alike fractions. The first step, do it like fractions. So find LCD to the 9 and the 3 will be 9. So which number times 3 will be 9 equal 3. So you can multiply the whole fraction here by 3. So the first step, multiply here by 3. 1 times 3 and 3 times 3. So here the same mixed number, and here we have 5, and 1 times 3 will be 3, and 3 times 3 will be 9. Now the problem here, 2 minus 5 impossible. So what I do, borrow 1 from the 8. 8, take 1 from 8 will be 7, and change the 1 to the 9 over 9. Change the 1 to the 9 over 9. So I can write 7 and 9 over 9 plus 2 over 9. And here we have minus 5, 3 over 9. Now 2 plus 9 plus 2 will be 11. So we have here now 7, and here 11, and here the same denominator, minus 5 and 3 over 9. Now, as you see, the operation is possible now. So 11 minus 3 will be 8, at the same denominator 9, and here 7 minus 5 will be 2. So the last answer here, 2 and 8 over 7. And here we have some videos. When you have free time, you can watch all videos here. And this is our lesson today. Now, who has a question? Who has a question now?
Mr. Mead.
Yes, tell me.
Can we still add it, not subtract?
Repeat, please.
We can add.
Yes, we learned how to add mixed number last lessons. Today, just we want
Now
to
we can add
how to subtract using renaming. Yes.
عنوان الدرس مال هذا الدرس.
Can we leave?
With renaming. Subtract with renaming.
Can we leave?
Yes.
مستر عنوان هذا الدرس شو اسمه ما في ميكس نمبر، بس يوم انت تسوي المعادلات يكون في ميكس نمبر. كيف؟
And when I have mixed number in the question and I cannot do the operation directly, we can use regrouping, we can use borrow. The name of this operation, renaming. The name of this operation, renaming. This is the meaning of our lesson today.
Mr. You will take the attendance.
borrowing. Mister, can you do the attendance girl first?
Yes, today for girls. Okay.
Start renaming يعني borrowing.
Yes. يعني do the operation using the borrow or regrouping.
Mister.
Yes, Hala, if you have a question, wait me please to the last of this video.
Okay.
Asil.
Here.
Eliasia.
Here, Mr.
Jude.
Here, Mister.
Rinat.
Here, Mr.
Okay, Rawda. Rawda Nasir. روضة ناصر. شمسة.
Here, mister.
شيخ أحمد.
Yes.
شيخ بدر.
Yes.
عليا. عليا.
Here.
لطيفة.
Yes, mister.
لين.
Yes, mister.
ماريا.
Yes, mister.
مروة. 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 أوكي. مريم.
Yes. Here.
مهرة فيصل.
Here, mister.
موزعي.
Mister, Mama, I'm here.
مروة هير.
Yeah, mister, I just didn't hear you the first time.
موزة. موزعي. نغم.
نعم مستر. مستر أم سعيد موجودة.
نغم.
Here, mister.
نورة.
Here, mister. Here.
هاجر.
Mister, do we go?
Yes you can. هاجر.
Yes, mister.
مهرة خلفان.
Here, mister, here.
All girls please now.
أستاذ. أستاذ. أستاذ.
بطي. بطي.
نعم أستاذ، نعم.
حارب.
أستاذ أقدر أطلع؟
Yes. حارب.
نعم أستاذ. نعم.
بسوي أنا حمد علي.
نعم أستاذ.
منصور علي.
موجود أستاذ.
حمدان الكعبي. حمدان الكعبي. حمدان.
غايب أستاذ.
اوكي. خالد خليل.
نعم مستر.
دانيال.
مستر أقدر أحضر؟
دانيال.
يس مستر. عادي يطلع؟
خليل.
عادي
زايد.
يطلع؟
زايد.
عادي يطلع؟
Yes you can leave. Can leave. زايد. زايد. عيد محمد.
نعم أستاذ. نعم أستاذ. أستاذ
سلطان علي.
أوليف.
يس. سلطان علي.
أوكي.
سلطان علي. سلطان علي. سلطان غازي. سلطان غازي. سلطان غازي. عامر أحمد.
نعم أستاذ.
عبد الله الحمادي.
نعم أستاذ.
عبد الله الظاهري. عبد الله راشد.
نعم.
عبد الله الجابري.
نعم.
عبد الله الأحبابي، عبد الله مسعود. عبد الله مسعود.
absent.
عمر أشرف.
نعم.
عمر الشامسي.
أستاذ عاد يا غادر.
Yes, you can. عمر الشامسي. عمر الشامسي. فلاح.
نعم أستاذ.
مايد.
نعم أستاذ.
محمد أحمد الحمادي.
نعم أستاذ.
محمد سعيد السريحي.
أستاذ.
Yes.
أنت قلت اسمي عادي أطلع؟ أوكي باي.
محمد سهيل.
موجود.
مطاوع.
موجود.
معاذ. معاذ.
Yes, here.
Yes. Yes. Who has a question
Yeah.
now?
أنا أستاذ.
تفضل.
أستاذ، أول ما بدينا الحصة أنت ما قمت تقول ماث جريد 5، قمت تقول ماث جريد 6.
اوكي طيب وين المشكلة؟ مو مكتوب جريد 5؟ خلاص جريد 5. إذا أنا أخطأت يعني وين المشكلة؟ طالما مكتوب العنوان أمامك ماث جريد 5، ماث جريد 5 ما في مشكلة. أنا أحيانا بغلط في الكلام يعني ما في مشكلة. طالما العنوان واضح أمامك ماث جريد 5. هذا سؤالك؟ مين اللي عم يكلمني؟ مايد؟
هي أستاذ.
طيب ما شاء الله. Who has a question? Who has a question? Okay, this is our lesson today. The title of our lesson today: how to subtract using or with renaming. Thank you for your listening. Have a nice day. See you tomorrow إن شاء الله. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.